Yeah, YouTubers, Tasman here, bringing you another episode of Foundry Virtual Tabletop from the ground up. And this is the GM edition. I think that's what I'm going to say. Maybe GM edition, player edition. So, in the last episode, we kind of went over some of the interface here. We talked a little bit about Dice So Nice and Dice Tray and how they can enhance your game and make it just a little bit cooler, because everyone likes to see dice rolling on the table, right? So in this one, what we're going to talk about is the interface in general. So this area over here, the anvil does nothing really. As you can see, I can click it, doesn't do anything. Right now, because we don't actually have a scene or a map, we cannot access any of these. So we'll talk about those in more detail later, but these are going to be basically your controls. The first one's when you're in player mode. This is your rulers and stuff. This is your tiles and objects. This is for drawing. This is walls, lighting, audio, and bookmarks or journal entries or something like that. Down here at the bottom, we have our little area that shows you connected players. Now if it shows this little arrow showing that it can actually expand. If you expand that will just show all players, including ones that are not connected. So this little black icon here means they're not connected. I talked a little bit about this in the previous episode. So when your players connect, they get an option to choose a player and all that stuff, and I think I went over that in the player's guide. We'll have to check that when I record that one, make sure I did that. But if you right click on this, you can do user configuration. You can set your color, which is this little dot right here. It will also be the default color of any dice that you roll. If you're a player, you'll actually have the option to select characters if they've been given if you've been given permission to access those characters. And then of course you can also do a player avatar. I don't think, actually I do have one I could do. I just remembered. So if I go to Worlds, Bare Bones, I just uploaded this recently. So we'll just do my Tezrian, actually I think it's that one, the portrait. So you can see, has a nice portrait. Now as the GM, I don't think that's going to matter very much. But as a player, it might matter more. So if we say that configuration, I wonder if, hello. No, it doesn't actually say anything, but you'll notice it does have that little ring around it saying that this is my color. If Derby Fam happens to type in, I believe it will also be a blue color. There you go. So let's minimize that. So the next area we have is our hotbar. So there's a total of 5 of these. If we go down, you can see there's 5, and it's basically for macros, but you can also add just chat scripts. So like if I wanted to create one that's just a chat, I'd say, hey everybody, or something like that, and then say save. Then when I click it, it will just say it in the chat. If I know much about JavaScript, I can actually create macros, and we'll talk a little bit about those later. You have the option of editing a macro, removing macros, remove the macro from here, or delete the macro. If you delete the macro, when you have macros, it just puts them inside basically this folder. If I remove the macro, you'll see that the macro still exists, and I can drag it from there and put it back. But if I delete the macro here, it will get rid of it altogether. So you can have your own macros. You can create, like I was showing, you can have a script type macro or a chat macro. Script is if you're doing JavaScript and stuff. That's kind of outside the scope of this, but maybe at some point we might tap upon it. Let's go ahead and clear that. So this is your macro bar here, or your hotbar. And like I said, you have 5 iterations of those, so 50 in all that you can do. So you could have one for, when you're in combat, one when you're just doing whatever else. This area over here is where a lot of your big stuff is. This part we already talked about, and this is the module that gives it to us. In fact, it might be a good idea to just disable these two modules so you can see what it actually looks like. So let's go ahead and say save. So when you have no modules installed or anything, you will see like this. You'll have your little chat window where you can type. Up here is where you can choose what type of role it is. This little dice right here does nothing. This, if you have the dice tray, will actually open up that fancy dice calculator that we showed. If you want to save your chat, you can always click the save button, and it will allow you to save that chat, the whole chat log that was going on. So this is the chat right here, right? The very first one. The next one over is our combat tracker. Now, one thing also to note is all of these things I can actually pop out. If I right click it, you'll see now we can have the chat log over here. And I can right click also the combat tracker. It's in both places. So if I close it here, I still have it here. The combat tracker it's a pretty nice little thing. We'll definitely go over that a little later, where you can have multiple types of encounters, and then you can activate them as you go. This next one is a very important one because these buttons are all disabled until you have a scene. Your scene is basically your map, your story, and everything else you're going to kind of associate it with. It kind of groups everything together. However, you can have journal entries without having a scene. You can attach journal entries to your scene. Next one will be your actors. This is where you can copy from the compendiums. You can put links to NPCs, to mobs, to players. And then a very important thing you can do here with this is you can right click on any of them, and you can, if they have artwork, you can see a nice close-up of their artwork. If we can view the token, what the token looks like, if it's separate, we can right click and we can delete it. We can duplicate it if we want to have another one. We can configure permissions, and this is where you would come in and say, okay, I want all players. Nope, right now it says no players are access to this. Derby Fam is the owner. Derby Kid is default, which means he doesn't basically have any access to it at all. The options are limited, owner, observer. So and we'll talk about those more in detail as well. Just a quick rundown is basically there's none, meaning they can't do anything with it. They can't touch it. They can't move it. Limited, obviously, is going to give you limited things. We'll go over that later. Observer means they can only observe it. It's all read-only type stuff. Setting as owner means they can claim it, like we have down here. Well, Derby Fam's not connected because I never connected her. Oh, actually, I did. She's right here. Maybe she went AFK or something. But as you can see, she's actually connected to this one. So if we click on her and say user configuration, you can see she's actually chosen that one. So, and then all your players will be listed here, so you can give various permissions for things. You can also create folders to make it so they're organized. You can have one called players, one called NPCs, one called, if you have factions, you could have a faction of the Harpers or whatever else in D&D, or whatever you want. You can create folders to keep those all sorted. You can create individual actors, whether it's going to be a player character, non-player character, or even vehicles, such as animals and actual vehicles, carts and stuff like that. The next one over we have is the item directory. So this is for items. So there's in the compendium, which is this guy over here, you have lots of options of things that you can have in your game. The items, swords, special items, magical items, rations, all that stuff. You can keep a list of things here and then award them to players as you go, so you don't always have to pull up the compendium. You can also create your own. So once again, you can create a folder, you can create item. Now, my previous time that we did this, I guess the version 1 of Foundry Virtual Tabletop from the ground up, we actually went and created a dummy item of everything. But as you can see, you can have equipment, you can have weapons, consumables, I know I did those backwards, tools, loot, class items, spell, feature, backpack. So all these different items you can choose from and create. And each of them have a little bit different or little different options in configuring. We'll probably end up going over that because we want to be complete with this. The next one is our journal entries. These are basically your story for like if you have an adventure book, it would be your different chapters that cover the different areas. You can have it be one journal entry is for when they're in this city or in this tavern. You can get as granular as you want. Once again, you can organize things. One thing, oh, actually you can't do it. I think earlier you were unable to have colors on your folders, but you can actually now have, a whole rainbow of colors for your folders. So we could say test folder and create the folder, and then you'll see we have that. This little leaf, it looks like a leaf to me, but it's actually I think it's a pen, like a pen and quill thingy. Once you have that, you can do configurations. So you can give configurations once again for journal entries. If I create an entry, I could say this is DRBY Derby Fams notes. So we can have Derby Fams notes here. And if I close this and right click on it, I can say configure permissions, and I can say that once again, Derby Fam's the owner. No one else gets to see this. Maybe I have secret, abilities or missions that they have, or, any kind of thing I want. So as you can see, default, if I want everyone to be able to access it, then I could say observer for story elements. Now, a cool thing about these also with these notes is there's two sections. You have the text section, which is here, which is your standard. And this is saying where's it at. We can put it inside test folder, so we can go in here and use our basic editing and what's the word I'm looking for, formatting to create an entry thing. We can also drag things, like if we have an SRD of items, we want to say, oh, when you have this item, by the way, you have an abacus. We can actually drag that in there, and it will automatically create a link for it. Once we save it, it turns into a link, and bam, you can pull it up. If we go into edit, it looks like this big messy thing. If you understand kind of the structure and the what I want to say, the JavaScript and stuff, this might make a little bit more sense, but this really isn't much JavaScript here at all. But since this whole thing is basically a Java, a web page basically in Java, that's where that is. So then you also can have images that you have in here. So we could actually have an image in here. What image should I do? Let's go browse files. I think if we go to worlds, bare bones, I have Tezrian in here. So then, hit check. And there you go. So then if I say I want to share this image, then I could simply say show players. And now if I go here, you'll see it is showing her. Now here, she doesn't have any real rights to this, but if she goes into the journal entry, oh, I didn't actually okay that, did I? But anyway, so we'll play with that in a little bit. So anyway, you have these two things, and then you can click show player on the text. So right now we don't have any text, but we could say this is the text. We'll make it look nicer, I guess. Hit save entry. If we show players, it will say, okay, this has been shown, and because only DerbyFam's connected, it will say, actually it was saying DerbyFam's notes has been shown to all players. So if we go back in here, now we can see the notes are here. Let's go and minimize that again. So once again, let's go back here real quick. Was this? Oh yeah, we put it in here now. So we right click that, say configure permissions. We didn't actually set it. So if we make her an owner, then we can go in here, and now you'll see she can actually see this folder, and she can see her notes. Now if I had a second set of notes inside this folder that was Derby Kid, she would not see that. So I'll show you that real quick. So if we come in here, create a new entry, we're going to go ahead and call this DERBYKIDS. Oh, probably should put apostrophe S, NOTES, and then say create. Close that, drag that into there. Now we have Derby Kid's notes in here. We're going to go ahead and set permissions, and we're going to make it so that he is the owner and all players is done. Save changes. And now if we go back over to DerbyFam, you'll see that she still only sees DerbyFam's notes. So you could rename this folder to, you know, something like players notes. And that way it would show up on their screens as the player's notes. So if we edit this, oh, that's a new journal entry. Whoops, I meant edit this. Edit folder. We'll just call this PLAYER players NOTES. And now they'll both see it as players notes, and they'll think it's just their player. So anyway, this is kind of nice. You can, like I was showing, you can add links into it for pictures, for all kinds of stuff. So you can really make a nice layout, I guess, or kind of your description of your story that you're going along. Now, I've mentioned this before, but I like to keep mentioning it. We really are compressed on screen space, because if I made this my full screen on YouTube, even maximized, it would get more granulated, and it would still be maybe really small. So I have this down, I don't remember the actual dimensions, it's just around the 720 by 1280. Or 1280 by 720, however you want to look at it. So your screen will probably be a lot larger, and things won't look like they go underneath the screen and stuff quite as much. So let's continue on. We now have the tables. This is for role tables for various things. You know, you could say, okay, I want to create a table. Once again, we have create folders. Almost all these have create folders, so you can organize it. Sorry, so you can organize it. But let's say we want to create a weather roll table or a season. So, whoops, I guess I have to type in there SEASON, seasons. Season does. All right, so here we have a seasons roll table. And what we can do is come into here, and we can say that I want to, where did I do it now? Seasons table description. Oh, it's right here. So we're going to have, let's say, 4 seasons, right? We're going to say 1 to 1, 2 to 2. We're going to roll a 1d4. So 1 d4 is our thing, our formula. Table description. What season is it? So there we go. There's our description of it. Now, this part right here is saying, where do we output our results? So we can say we just want it into a compendium. We want it to be an entity. What kind of results is it? Text, we'll put it into the chat, obviously. So let's just call this one, for example, or actually, sorry, I'm lying. This isn't where we put it. This is actually what type of thing. This is saying it's just a text. If we said entity, it's going to ask for an actor type. Is it an actor? Blah, blah, blah. Then we can put that there. So you can actually use this as a random encounter table. and it will actually automatically, give you your things, and then compendium entries and stuff like that. So I was thinking something completely different for a minute. So we're going to call this winter, spring, summer, and fall. So just really quick, you can also set up weights so that, it's a 1d4, but I can make it so more often it's going to be winter than not. So we could add a 2 to that, and it will make it a little more common that it will do that. It'll still be fairly random, but it will not, it's still random, but it will not be completely random. There will be a little more weight thrown towards whichever one I want. The other thing we can do, is it in here, I think? So draw with replacement. I think they changed the verbiage on that. One of these I can't remember which one of these two. I think this is if we just want to display it to chat. This is not. So I think the draw with replacement will actually lock the one that was prior so that it can't ever select that again. We're going to try that. So let's go ahead and say update, save it, I guess. And let's go ahead and try and roll and go to the chat window. So if we roll, you can see we got a summer. So it rolled a 3. This is not doing draw with replacement. I think maybe that's what we want then. Yeah. So if you don't have draw with replacement, it will actually lock this out. So now we cannot get summer again. Wow, we got summer twice in a row. Let's go and do it. And you'll see now we got that one, but now it's locked so that we can't get that anymore. And now we're guaranteed to get winter because everything else. So it will also kind of, as far as your players see that, yeah, I just rolled a 1, even though it might have rolled a 3. Because that one's locked out, it just quickly finds another quick random number. So that's kind of how that works. It's kind of nice. If we reset it, it will go ahead and unlock everything. So if you have a wild magic table of 200 wild magic effects, you can have it lock out. So for at least 200 times, they never get the same one twice. And then once they've finished all 200, you can just reset the table instead of having to go through and go, okay, that's unlock, unlock, unlock. We just hit reset and it'll reset. You can also delete your items. And I think you can change the icon of them. So this is the icon that shows right here. So if you have maybe like something that looks like snowflakes, the sun, an Easter egg, I don't know, leaves, the brown leaves or something, you can have little kind of things like that. So that's basically that. That's our roll tables. Next is our music and stuff. Now, because we're in a VM, I'm not sure if I have this. Oh, we heard the dice, so we should hear this. So if we want to bring in a playlist, we can call this my playlist and create it. We can now add music to this playlist. So we can have it so that it fades in milliseconds. So basically the way, if you don't know how you do milliseconds, that is 1 second right there. So if I want 2 seconds, it's 2000 milliseconds and so on and so forth. So that will fade in whatever music you're doing. This is, do you want it to play back? I'm sure if you've had iTunes or anything, you'll understand what all this is. So sequential playback means it's going to start at the first one, do the second, third, fourth, fifth. Shuffle means it'll just randomly go through. Simultaneous playback means it can do 2 at once. Soundboard means it doesn't actually do it. You actually use it more as a soundboard. You click the item and it actually will play that one sound. If we go in, we can give it a description. We can go ahead and get, these are all images. Where am I going? Oh, user data. Worlds. I'm pretty sure this one's the music. Bare bones, audio, and let's try that. Yes, that did work. And then we can update the playlist, which closes it. So once we have it, you can see there we'll make it so that it repeats. So because there's only one, we can hit play. And there you go. We can control the sound, so if it's too loud for our players, we can go ahead and lower it. We can mute it. Oh, actually, pause it. Unpause it. Set it so that it repeats and stuff like that. So it's really, Atropo's done a really good job on this. Let's go ahead and stop it. Last thing we have, well, we've kind of gone over settings. We'll mention those again. Is this right here, the compendiums. So this is where you have all your monsters. These are SRD monsters, so they're all free. If you click on one, its name, not the picture, you can get its stats. You can get all kinds of information, features that it has, its spell book if it has spells, effects. And then, of course, it's biography, information about it, which is really cool. So that's all free stuff. All the SRD stuff is included. Class features, monster features, racial features. We have all our spells that are in the SRD. If you cone a cold, what is it? You can find out here. The details, if there's effects, stuff like that. So there's all that. And I think... this is also at some point you might actually you can create a compendium of macros. So you can actually create one that you can store all your macros in, then you can actually just drag them where you need them. And then the final area right here is the settings. And I think we've talked about this. So we have the configure settings. You can go through here. You got the core settings. You got the system settings. This is for the actual system that you're running. And then you have the module settings. For any modules that you have active, you can go do those. Then we have the manage modules. We talked about that. Edit world will take you back to the screen where we actually designed, the text and stuff. I don't want to do that because then we have to come back in. User management's where we added users. Return to setup is where you go all the way back out, where you can choose new modules and stuff like that. And then we talked about this, the control references. Everyone has access to this, where they can actually see all the different shortcut keys they can use. We have view documentation, which opens I believe this one opens in a web page inside the game, gives you the knowledge base. And then the community wiki pages. Then if you are inviting people, you can get your invitation links, and then this will log you back out basically to the edit world screen. So I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to cover with just the interface. We're going to dig into more of this in the next episode. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my Discord and my other channels. And don't forget to tell other people about my channel. I'm checking out. They like what they see. They can sub. And we can just grow the channel. So that's it, my friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.